What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And yes, we are in a different scenery. As you all know, this is my bedroom. They are doing some construction work right outside. So I figured, rather than deal with the noise, I would just go in my bedroom. It's a little quieter in here. You can't really hear it. I can barely hear it. Whereas in the old spot, I did a dummy recording and I could hear it pretty decently. So I just wanted to move. Without further ado, though, we will jump into the video. And as you can see, we're going to be discussing the Miguel Cabrera trade, which of course is between the Detroit Tigers and the at the time Florida Marlins, which occurred in this trade occurred on December 5th, 2007. Now, before we jump into the video, I just want to specify right here, so the Marlins were called the Florida Marlins at this point in time, and they were known as the Florida Marlins up until the 2011 or 2012 season when they changed their name to Miami. Um, we will from here on forward be calling them Miami. It's easier than specifying, okay, today they were the Florida Marlins for this trade, and then they were the Florida Marlins in that trade, and then they were Miami, back to Florida. It's just easier, and it's just a little cleaner for everybody rather than writing Florida, Florida, Miami, Miami, Florida, Miami. It gets a little confusing. So they'll just be called Miami from here on out. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. So now that the whole discussion here about what's going on is taken care of, we'll jump into the video. So obviously, this trade is the Miguel Cabrera trade, and the Detroit Tigers would receive 2 players in exchange for 6. Now, what happened at this point? The Marlins had been a surprising World Series team just a few years prior. Back in 2003, they had won the World Series. So the Marlins are typically, they're like the Red Sox, where they'll be good one year and then they'll have a bad year, and then they'll be great, win the World Series, then they'll have 3 bad years, then they'll win the World Series again. The Marlins were like that. They won in '97, they had to dismantle their core, and then they won again in '03. And at this point, that's 3 years, 4 years after that World Series. So they want to dismantle, they want to get prospects. The Tigers, on the other hand, were coming off some really bad seasons. They had one of their franchise worst seasons in '03. And they're getting better as time goes on. And they say, you know what? We got the money. We can afford to trade for Miguel Cabrera. So they take Miguel Cabrera, the first baseman Miguel Cabrera, along with pitcher Dontrelle Willis. Now, how did those two players pan out for Detroit? We all know Miguel Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera is going to be a Hall of Famer the day he decides to hang up his cleats, bearing something like a PED suspension like we saw with Robinson Cano. He is a 7-time All-Star during his time with Detroit, as well as, being the 2-time AL MVP. Now, he had an elite season in the year the Tigers made the World Series, but unfortunately the team fell short to the San Francisco Giants. Like I said before, though, he's all but a lock for the Hall of Fame. I don't want to get into details with him, with his career stats. We all know who he is. We all know how good he is. His peak was amazing, and he's been a relevant player for a long time. Dontrelle Willis, on the other hand, well, Dontrelle Willis, he spent parts of 3 seasons in the organization for Detroit. Now, he had a lot of potential, but he had anxiety issues get to him, which really kind of stunk. Through the 3 years, though, he spent time in Single A, Triple A, and the majors. Basically, an anxiety thing happened, and he kind of ended up getting demoted straight from majors to Single A, and he had been beaten up big time, and I think it was the '09 season, and he just needed to go to the minors, so they sent him to the minors. He worked it out, and he just wasn't the same player after that. So they wind up trading him to the Arizona Diamondbacks in exchange for pitcher Billy Buckner. And Buckner, he gets released after 2 months in the minors. So it was basically Detroit was selling Dontrelle Willis. We don't want money for him. We want a player that we can potentially turn into something. But it didn't pan out. Now, how did the Marlins do in this trade? So they got a good group of 6 players. And Andrew Miller, we all know him, relief pitcher Andrew Miller. Pitchers Dallas Traherne and Frankie De La Cruz, relief pitcher Burke Badenhop, outfielder Cameron Maybin, and catcher Mike Rabello. How did those 6 players pan out for the Marlins? Well, we'll start with Cameron Maybin for the heck of it. So Maybin ends up having a couple good seasons in Florida. He doesn't play too much, though, over those 3 years he spends on the team, just because he wasn't great. And when he played, he was pretty good. It's just they didn't have room for him in the starting rotation, in the starting lineup. And he ends up getting traded after the 2010 season. Now, he's traded right here in exchange for a pair of relievers in Ryan Webb and Edward Mujica. Now, how did those two do for the Marlins? Webb, he had a 3 year stint as a middle reliever for the team before he ends up walking. Wasn't amazing, but wasn't bad at all. Mujica, on the other hand, he spends 1.5 years in the organization, or on the team, I should say, as a reliever before he himself gets traded. And he is traded straight up to the St. Louis Cardinals in exchange for a third baseman named Zach Cox, who never makes the majors. So they just kind of gave up on him a little too early, acquired Zach Cox, who, like I said, didn't even make the majors. How did the other 5 players do in the trade that they got? Well, again, basically Andrew Miller will be the next one we discuss. And Miller spends 3 years in Miami. He was mostly a starter, but he just didn't really pan out. He was getting beat up as a starter. He suffered injuries as a starter. And he ends up, struggling. And they end up trading him. And he is traded straight up to Boston for a relief pitcher named Dustin Richardson. And Richardson spends a half season in AAA before getting waived. So again, they gave up on a guy a little too early, unfortunately for them. Now we get to the other 4 players, and a lot of them are similar. Frankie De La Cruz, he struggles in 1 season before being traded for cash consideration, so he's basically nothing. Dallas Traherne, he needed Tommy John surgery in 2009 while still in the minors, and he never made it to the big leagues, unfortunately for him. Mike Rabello, he didn't play too much over 3 seasons for the team. He was the backup catcher. He just didn't play that much. And last but not least, we have Berg Badenhop. And he was a decent reliever for parts of 4 seasons. He was known as a sinker specialist, so he was a very good sinker pitcher. They're hard to come by, but he was good at it. Now, they ended up trading him to the Tampa Bay Rays, their in-state rivals, in exchange for second baseman Jake Jeffries. Now, Jake Jeffries never made it to the big leagues, so yet again, another player that the Marlins, in this trade, gave up on a little too early. So, in the end, that's how the Marlins did. And we know how the Tigers did. How did the teams that were involved in this trade do? We'll start with the Diamondbacks with Dontrelle Willis. And Dontrelle Willis, he just struggled immensely over 1 month. And then they just got rid of him. They said, okay, the experiment's over. So it was a wash of a trade. Detroit wins by not even having their guy make it to the big leagues. That tells you right there that it's a bad trade for you. The next one we'll discuss is going to be, of course, the San Diego Padres with Cameron Maybin. And Maybin had 4 seasons spent 4 seasons in San Diego, and he was known for his strong defense, but he had an iffy batting average. He wasn't the best batter, but he was really good on defense. So that's why WAR makes him look a lot better than he was truly. He ends up getting traded, and we actually will discuss that trade in the Craig Kimbrell trade breakdown video when that one comes up, but I just wanted to mention that there. After him, of course, we have the St. Louis Cardinals, who got Mujica, and he was good. He spent 1.5 years in the bullpen for the team. He wasn't amazing, but he did help the team win the World Series before walking. Just had to mention him there. He was a key piece in the World Series one. Wasn't like the best player on the team, but he was good enough. Boston for Andrew Miller. So Andrew Miller ends up getting converted to a relief pitcher rather than a starter, and that worked really well for him. He did battle injuries over his 3.5-year stint in Boston, so that unfortunately slowed him down, but he did improve as a player, and he ends up getting traded. So nothing to add there. And last but not least, of course, the Tampa Bay Rays getting Berg Badenhop, and he spent 1 year as a long relief pitcher before he himself was traded. So basically, they would throw him out there in the 6th inning and expect him to get through the 7th inning. So 2 innings here, 3 innings here, 2.5, 2 1/3 there. They just wanted a longer outing out of him. But yeah, that is the Miguel Cabrera trade. So of course, who's the winner of this trade? Is there any question? This number right here tells you 51.3 WAR for Miguel Cabrera. Detroit wins this trade hands down with a career WAR of 50.2. Miami didn't do horrible, but didn't do great. They got a 3.4 WAR out of it. They definitely regret this trade. Next, you have San Diego getting a 6.5 for Cameron Maybin. St. Louis 2.8 plus a World Series ring. I mean, Mujica wasn't instrumental, wasn't the guy, but he still served a role in that team. Boston got a 1.5 out of Miller, Andrew Miller. Tampa Bay got a 0.8 out of Burke Bainhop. And last but not least, Arizona got a negative 0.3. But again, it was kind of a wash of a trade for them. They were just trying to buy low and hope, but it didn't pan out. But yeah, that is the Miguel Cabrera trade. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and leave suggestions. Have a great rest of your day.